Welcome to the Deep Dive. I am your host, and today we are looking at something completely wild. Imagine spending a year and a half building a community from absolute scratch.
Right, and I am the resident researcher here to help us unpack this. You mean doing all that while working a grueling manual labor day job just to fund it, right?
Exactly, yeah. You face down literal lawsuits, you survive aggressive smear campaigns, and when it is finally successful, you just deliberately bury the achievement so it never shows up on your resume.
Which is, the exact opposite of how we operate today. But it is precisely what the Apostle Paul did in the first century.
Yeah, so today our mission for this deep dive is to explore a really radical countercultural approach to knowledge and success. We're digging into a stack of historical commentaries and modern theological reflections on 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verses 1 through 9.
And we are really looking at the massive friction between those ancient biblical values and our modern ambition. I mean, if you ask a grad student today why they are studying, they are rarely going to say to acquire noble wisdom.
Oh, absolutely not. It is for success, money, recognition. We tend to treat education and knowledge purely as an ATM. Every degree, every late-night study session, it is all just supposed to increase our market ROI.
And the sources point out that foundational academic disciplines are practically dying out right now simply because they do not make money. We have, largely commodified human intellect as a tool to elevate status.
Which is why, because we are so conditioned to view knowledge that way, the ancient approach of Paul is incredibly jarring. Let us get into that historical context a bit.
Paul spent 18 months laying the foundation of the Corinthian church. And like we said, he worked with his own hands to survive. And he even faced court trials and slander from his opponents.
Okay, let's unpack this, because if I spent 18 months building a community from scratch while working a day job and dodging lawsuits, I would definitely want some credit, or at least a polished resume out of it. Why didn't he?
What's fascinating here is that he made a highly deliberate choice. Despite his massive effort, Paul came in weakness, fear, and much trembling.
Wait, really? Corinth was a major cosmopolitan hub. If you were trying to convince a skeptical, educated city to join a new movement, showing up projecting weakness seemed like terrible marketing.
It does seem completely counterproductive, yeah. Corinth was obsessed with status and rhetoric. They expected polished, persuasive arguments. But the sources highlight that Paul actively avoided lofty speech.
I mean, the guy had extensive rhetorical training, right? He could have debated those local philosophers under the table.
Exactly. But instead, he decided to know absolutely nothing among them except Jesus Christ and Him crucified, which, was a highly offensive and controversial message at the time.
So he intentionally strips his credentials down to one talking point. Why do that? There has to be a psychological mechanism behind that choice.
The commentaries argue his choice was entirely strategic. He did this so the people's faith would rest on God's power, not human eloquence.
Oh, I see. So if he used slick rhetoric or his own charisma, the community would fracture the minute a better public speaker came along.
Right, exactly. By removing his ego, he forces the audience to engage with the raw substance of the message. And the modern reflections take this a step further.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they argue that even subjectively good achievements today, like explosive church growth or a successful charity project, are not things to boast about before the cross. True wisdom requires getting our egos completely out of the way.
Which brings this directly back to you, the listener. Where are you tempted to prove yourself through your image or preparation or personal achievements rather than relying on a higher power?
It is a demand for total ego death. The wisdom of this age practically demands self-promotion just to survive in the economy. But the countercultural argument here is that stepping back makes a community far more resilient.
It definitely makes you wonder how much mental energy we waste every single day just trying to look capable to the people around us. Imagine the mental bandwidth you would free up if you simply stopped caring who got the credit.
Yeah, we really do waste a lot, and stepping off that treadmill of worldly validation is the only way to actually grasp the substance of what this ancient text is talking about.
Which leads us to a highly compelling final thought drawn directly from the end of our source material, verse 9.
Right, that verse hints at a massive reality waiting on the other side of that ego death. It mentions a hidden wisdom.
Exactly. It claims there are things no eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor the heart of man imagined. So think about that. If you actually manage to stop exhaustively chasing the wisdom of this age and worldly validation, what entirely new dimensions of understanding might you be missing out on right now simply because they cannot be measured on a resume?